So coming to our Damordarastakam study and just reflecting on the first verse, what jewels were distributed by the commentators in the first verse. So first of all, it was made very clear how the first line, Namam Ishwaram Satchit Anandarupam, is the Mangalacharyan, is making the platform. And both Srila Bhakti-Vigraha Keshav Goswami Maharaj and my Gurudev have discussed this point of the making the platform very secure to erect this Rasik commentary on top of that platform. So this was the first line, and then the second line, it was running straight into the Leela, Lasat Kundalam Gokula Brajamanam. So this, the origin, where is it? Yes, in Gokul, the abode of Gokul, the home of the Gopas, the Gopis, the cows, calves, etc. So this is where we are. We've come into this realm through the second line, it's described. And then the last two lines go into this phenomenal quality that Krishna shows, fear, to his mother. He's running, and from behind, she captures him. This is all in the first verse brought out. So the jewel that we are given by the commentators is that we must cultivate attraction to Krishna more than he has for us. This is the dynamic, this is the quality of the Brijbasis. They have more love for Krishna than he has for them. And certainly in the realm of Krishna in his relationship with Radhika, of course they are eternal, there's no beginning to their relationship. Nevertheless, Rupa Goswami, he describes in that Vidagdha Madhav how initially it was Radhika who had the attraction to Krishna. And it was Radhika who melted Krishna's heart. And Krishna reciprocated with Radhika's love. So the Ashraya possesses more affection and attraction than the Vishaya does independently. And the Vishaya, Krishna, the object, he's melted by the waves of prem that come from his devotees. So this first verse is really opening that out very much indeed, that the Brijbasis, they control Krishna by their love. It's their love that controls him, this prem. And Krishna reciprocates with that. So this is a very wonderful point to consider. How can we, first of all, love Krishna more than he loves us? That's quite for us to, we see Krishna in Thakurji manifestation. We can hear Krishna in the sound vibration of Nam. We can see Krishna in the Parikrama party. We can appreciate the reality of Krishna in Radha-kunda and Shyamakunda, for example. But to develop that feeling of absolute attraction to him, more than he has for us, it's a very high consideration. But this was the condition of Mother Yashoda. She ran faster than him because her prem was higher than his, and she caught him from behind. So this is all brought out in the very first verse. It's giving this focus on the Brijbasi's love for Krishna. So our focus is to serve the Brijbasis, to want to emulate, not imitate, to want to follow in the footsteps of the Brijbasis. So there's many verses saying this, and one verse is on page 163. Krishnam smaram janandakasya preshtam nija samahitam tat kata rataskaso kurvad varsham rajay sada. This is meaning the devotee should constantly remember Sri Krishna along with Sri Krishna's dearmost associates whom he chooses to follow. While permanently living in Braj, he should become attached to always hearing the narrations of their pastimes with Sri Krishna. So this is one of the verses, there's 3 verses together that actually open out the sadhak's vision of his clear path of bhajan. And then of course we have Seva Sadhak Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi, Tad Bhav Lipsanat Karya, Raja Lokana Ashrata. That desiring to obtain the particular bhav, he should closely follow in the footsteps of a particular associate in Braj. So this is what we're hearing. We're hearing about Yashoda and her immense prem for Krishna. And we also want to become inspired with more prem for Krishna than he has for us. There's this other verse, Kleshagni Shubhada, Moksha Lukutakrit, Sandra Ananda Visheshatma, Sri Krishna Akashani Chasa, that Krishna is attracted to that prem of the devotee. So this is where we're going. We want to actually develop this prem for Krishna more so than he has for us. That will attract Krishna. So that's a high conception to do like that. So in this first verse, in the 3rd line, there was indication to Krishna's beauty was there. His, where is it? The splendor of his earrings, and shines forth in his splendid residence, the transcendental abode, Sri Gokul. But this reference to his beauty, this is what's brought out also in the first verse. And many, Beauty. Form, yes, beauty. So this is brought out in many beautiful verses that we read through, putting the accent on Krishna's beauty. This is how we can develop, first of all, our attraction to him, and then develop our understanding of how do the Brijbasis serve Krishna? How do they control him with so much love? How are they able to think about him with so much affection and attraction? And this should be on our minds. How can they do like that? How are they gifted with that? But this is the path of the Ragatmikas. The Ragatmikas are those people who are already in that place. They're already Siddha. They're already the perfected souls. We are Rag Anuga. We are following in the wake of those Ragatmika Bhaktas. That's who we are. And we're Rupanugas, following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami, who is unpacking all this and describing all this very clearly to us. Brajay Tishtam, Brajay, what's that? Tishtam Brajay Tanuragi Danugami. Again, Rupa Goswami is saying we must follow in the footsteps of the Brijba. So hearing this Damodarastakam, hearing of the immense attraction that Mother Yashoda has for her son, regardless, she doesn't know her son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead at all. She acts in a completely natural way. This Sambandha Lokat mood of natural attraction and affection as her son. And Krishna is bound by this. Krishna is caught by this. mood. So this first verse, we discussed all of these things in detail. So this is tremendous inspiration for our bhajan to follow the Brijabasis. So now we come to the second verse. Rudantam muhur netra yugam mrijantam karamboja yugmena satanka netram muhur swasakampa tri rehanka kanta stita graiva damodaram bhakti badam. So seeing the stick in his mother's hand and fearful of being beaten, he is weeping incessantly and rubbing his eyes again and again with his two lotus-like hands. His hands are extremely restless and filled with fear. His eyes. His eyes are extremely restless and filled with fear. He takes heavy breaths again and again that cause the pearls and other ornaments around his neck, which are marked by 3 graceful, curving lines, to tremble. O Damodar, you have been bound by your mother's Vatsalya Bhakti. I offer my obeisances unto that Damodar. So, this is the second verse. So, there's a commentary by Srila Sanatana Goswami in Sanskrit. And then Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj begins his commentary on page 34. So this is where we're walking through now. So now we've captured the mood of wanting to follow in the footsteps of the Brijabasis. So this is the Dig Darshani Tika Bhavanuvad of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. The excellence of Krishna's extraordinary Leela are depicted in this important verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-11.
Kritagasantam prarudantamakshini kashantamajjantashini swapanina udvikshamanam bhayavihvalekshanam haste gruhitva bhishayantya vagurat.
Thank you. Mother Yashoda watched as her naughty child cried bitterly and rubbed his eyes with both his hands. The black ointment from around his eyes mixed with his tears and spread everywhere. Seeing her son with his eyes full of fear at the sight of the stick she was brandishing, Yashoda took him by the hand and began to gently reproach him in order to instill fear in him. She's his mother, and this is how a mother will respond with a child. But this is not an ordinary child, this is the Supreme Lord. So this is the pastime that we're hearing. In the stanza beginning with Ludantam, Sri Satyabrat Muni fully captured the meaning of this Bhagavatam verse. By the way, we have to appreciate that Satyabrat Muni was in the previous Manu, Chakshush Manvantara. We can read in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam how Satyabrat Muni, he found the fish, Matsya, and that's the whole pastime of the growing of that fish, putting it in a small container and then in a lake, and the fish grew bigger and bigger, and then eventually put him in the ocean. And this is the Matsya avatar, the Meena avatar. And Satyabrat Muni was instructed and gifted by Narad Rishi. This is coming from Narad Rishi's inspiration. So many of these personalities are connected with Narad Rishi, like Prahlad, etc., Dhruva. So it was Narad Rishi who inspired Satyabrat Muni with this vision of Braj. And Satyabrat Muni, in the Chakshush Manvantara, had a desire to actually see that pastime. So he takes birth as the son of Vivishwan, the sun god. And then in this Manu, he becomes Vaivashvatu Manu. Vaivashvatu Manu is the son of Vivishwan. And Vaivashvatu Manu is the Manu of this age, these ages, 71 cycles. And he would have witnessed directly this pastime, because it only happens once in the day of Lord Brahma. in the 7th Manvantara. So he took his birth first in the 6th Manvantara, and then he crossed over into the 7th Manvantara as Vaivashvatu Manu, the Manu that we have today. And he witnessed directly the pastime of Mother Yashoda binding Krishna. His prayers were so sincere, so profound, as we're understanding by reading these commentaries, how significant is every line, every word of these prayers. So Sri Satyavrat Muni fully captured the meaning of this Bhagavatam verse in following with the second half from the previous stanza. So the second half of the previous verse is about Mother Yashoda chasing Krishna and capturing from behind, and Krishna's eyes being filled with fear. This is in the first verse. So carrying on from that part, second half of the previous stanza, he continues to establish his worshipful Lord's supremacy through descriptions of his unique pastimes. Appreciating the same pastime that is described in the above verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, he spoke the present stanza thus: when he saw his mother holding a stick, he became apprehensive, fearing that she would surely beat him. Now he was hoping that by showing her how afraid he was, he can avoid being punished. So Rudantam, he cries bitterly, and Karamboja Yugmena Netra Yugmam Mrijantam. He rubs his eyes again and again with both his lotus-like hands. Have you ever experienced this when you've been a child and your parents are going to beat you and you just cry very loudly before they even beat you, so that they don't beat you so hard, so that you feel, you know, you're letting them know that you're really afraid. And it works. Yes. I can remember doing it. Very loudly crying before I was beaten. That he just keeps rubbing his eyes with both his hands is in keeping with the natural behavior of a child. This is the special characteristic of his Balya Lila, and it is one explanation of Karamboja Yugmena Netra Yugmam Mrijantam. But this phrase also indicates two alternative meanings. The first of these is that there are actual tears that instantly came to his eyes due to his fear. In order to make these tears fall from his eyes, he continuously rubs them with both his hands. The second alternative meaning is that continuous streams of tears are already flowing from his eyes, so he rubs his eyes with both his hands to wipe away the tears. So in either case, he can either be rubbing them to make the tears come, or be actually trying to clear his eyes from the tears. Krishna is so mischievous. He does not want to be beaten by his mother, so by hook or by crook, he will try to avoid that. The meaning of Satanka Netram is that if even his eyes are expressing that he is afraid of being punished, his mind must be overwhelmed with fear, because this is not a play act. This is not a dramatic act on Krishna's part, otherwise it wouldn't resonate. Krishna is really afraid of his mother, genuinely. He has completely submerged himself in the identity of being a small child, even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know in the example also of Baladev Prabhu. Baladev Prabhu was totally immersed in Sakya Ras with Krishna. And when he was being carried by the demon Pralambasura from the game that they were playing, he was carried on his shoulders, and all of a sudden this demon grew. Baladev appeared to be bewildered. What is this demon? What am I supposed to do now? So he looks to Krishna at that point, and Krishna shoots him a glance to remind him of his omniscience. And then Baladev punches that demon in the face, cracks his head. But he was so immersed in Sakya Ras that he completely forgot his divine identity. So Krishna is the same. He's completely, totally. Why? How is he able to do that? Because he's controlled by the prem of Mother Yashoda. This is why. He's completely melted by her. Totally. So he's reciprocating completely with her in this mood of a tiny child. He is a tiny child because Mother Yashoda is convinced that he is a tiny child and is her son. And Krishna is controlled by that potency of Vatsalya Bhav. This is the speciality of Krishna, being controlled. This is what we just spoke about a few minutes ago, about being the Brijbasis having the ability to control Krishna. And we are in the anugatya of the Brijbasis. We want to be like that in our, but we want to, not that we want to control Krishna, but our prem, we want Krishna to, yes, we want Krishna to be controlled by our prem. So that's a tall order. That's something we have to really work on to reach that place. Where are we? The meaning of Satankanetra, his mind must be overwhelmed with fear. Otherwise, it may be taken to mean he is casting his glance in all directions because he is greatly agitated by fear. His attempt to avoid being beaten by his mother is another of his unique confidential pastimes. This is all Krishna's Leela. Krishna relishes this Leela so much that this Leela happens in every Brahmand. This Leela in this Prakat Leela is eternal also, in the sense that in every single Brahmand in existence, and there are countless billions of Brahmans, this pastime is taking place now. It never stops this pastime. It's always going on, this pastime. Even though we can consider it Naimitic Leela, in the sense that it's not the Nitya Leela of Aprakat, but nevertheless in Prakat Leela, in this earthly pastimes, it's always going on. Krishna is always in one particular universe and always performing this. He relishes it so much. He relishes the Vatsalya Prem of Mother Yashoda with so much pleasure and joy. And moreover, Muhul Swasena, because of his continuous crying and constant heavy sobs, Kanta Stita Graivam, the pearl necklace and other ornaments around his neck, which are marked with Tri Rekanta. Tri Rekhanka, yes. 3 graceful lines, like the ringed grooves of a conch, are also trembling, Kampat. Sri Damodar, whose belly becomes bound by ropes, appeared thus. By this description, Sri Satyabrat Muni has captured the meaning of another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-14. This is in the same chapter where this Damordarastakam is described. It's chapter 9 of the 10th canto.
Tammatvatmajam avyaktam marchalingamadhokshajam gopikollukale damna babandha prakrutam yadha.
Just as an ordinary mother in this world may bind her mischievous son, so Mother Yashoda, simply considering Sri Krishna to be her son, tied him to the grinding mortar with a rope as if he were an ordinary child. The above verse mentions the rope was knotted both at his belly and at the grinding mortar. Thus the sage has revealed Sri Krishna's unique supremacy by describing his Bhakta Vashyata, Vishesh, his special quality by which he allows his devotees to control him. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matahar sarvam prabhatine. He controls all the universes, and yet he allows his simple-hearted devotees to control him by their prem and their love. This is amazing to consider, especially the gopis.
This is only Brajadham.
Huh?
This is only Brajadham.
Absolutely. This is Madhurya.
This is not Vaikuntha.
No, absolutely. This is the nature of Madhurya. This is what is Madhurya. This is why it's so confidential. If everyone knew this, then you know, I don't think it would work properly. But it's very confidential. But it's all in Braj. This is why those verses I said before, Krishna Smaram, Janam Smaram, that and Seva Sadak Rupina, they're both saying you must reside in Vrindavan. You must reside in Braj. And sometimes it's saying, in brackets, if you can't be here in physically, then at least be here by mind. But my Gurudev actually says no. He says if your mind is here, then your feet will follow your mind and you'll be here. Because for Western devotees in particular, they have no excuse not to come, really and truly. Somehow, if the desire comes in the heart, Krishna will arrange whatever is needed to actually come. But if no desire comes, and if the desire is there, then you will come. But these verses are saying, continually reside in Braj. If you actually want these pastimes to manifest and sing in the heart, we must continually reside in Braj. His Bhakta Vashyata Vishesh, his special quality by which he allows his devotees to control him. Sri Satyabrat Muni says, Bhakti Bandham, Badam, Bhakti Badam. The meaning is Bhaktyaiva Badam. Sri Krishna is only bound by Bhakti and nothing else. In other words, it was not the strength of all the ropes that was able to bind him. It's important. The ropes didn't bind him. Mother Yashoda's devotion, her love, her bhakti bound him. Rather, he submitted to being bound on one hand because of the power of Yashoda, Sri Yashoda's bhakti for him in the form of motherly affection. And on the other hand, because of his own special quality of willingly being controlled by his bhaktas. So it's two. Relationship means two. It means you put something forward, that chesta, and then there's the kripa. There must be two aspects. The Vishaya and the Ashray. There must be the subject and the object, making the relationship for praying, this love to manifest. The devotees love to hear about love, the quality of love. And actually this whole Damodar Leela is only filled and only talking about this quality. It's only discussing that quality. This quality of praying from beginning to end. That's why the devotees relish it so much and chant it every single day of Kartika in particular. Willingly being controlled by his bhaktas like his mother in the form of her bhakti for her. That is why even when Mother Yashoda tied all the ropes she had gathered together, she still failed to bind him. There always remained an inexplicable gap of 2 fingers. This is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9, 15 and 17.
Taddama badhyamanasya swarbhakasya kritagasah dvayangulona mabhutena sandadhenyacha gopika.
Very nice. When Mother Yashoda tried to bind her mischievous child, the rope was 2 fingers too short, so she added another rope to it.
Yadasit tadapi nyunam te nanyadapi sandhade tadapi dvayangulam nyunam yajadadatta bandhanam.
However, that also was 2 fingers short. In this way, each and every time she tied on another rope, it was always 2 fingers short.
Evam swageha damani yashoda sandhadatyapi.
Although she had tied together all the ropes in her home, Mother Yashoda could not bind Krishna. Seeing this, the gopis started giggling. Utterly perplexed, she also began to laugh. It's very wonderful. Mother Yashoda is laughing at the astonishing situation. Why isn't this rope binding? Actually, my Gurudev describes that the other gopis that were there watching, they all went to their houses and brought extra ropes. They brought so many ropes and tied them all together, and still it wasn't able to bind his waist. The other reason that his belly became bound with rope, Damodaratva, is that Bhakti Badam, he is completely enchanted exclusively by the bhakti of his devotees. This meaning actually leads to the previous one, that he becomes bound because of his bhakta vashyata, his willingness to be controlled by his devotees. In regard to this, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.18.21 further states,
Sumatus swinagatraya visrastastaka barasrajaha društva parishramam krishnaha krupayasit swabandhane.
she had become exhausted in tying so many ropes together, and her body had become covered with perspiration. The flowers woven into her hair had fallen from her loosened braid and had scattered here and there. Seeing his mother's fatigue and feeling compassionate, little Krishna then allowed his mother to bind him.
Evam sandarshita hyanga harina brutya vashyata svashenapi krishnena yasyedam sveshwaram vashe.
O Maharaj Parikshit, the entire universe, along with the powerful demigods who control it, is completely under the control of the supreme independent personality of Godhead, Sri Hari. Yet he has allowed himself to be bound in order to show that he is willingly controlled by his devotees.
Nemam virincho na bhavo na shrirapyanga samshraya prasadam lebhire gopi yattat prapa vimuktidat.
The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, who bestows salvation upon all, never showed Lord Brahma, Maheshwara Shiva, or even his eternal consort Lakshmi Devi, who is half of his body, the kindness he showed to Gopi Yashoda.
Nayam sukhapo bhagavan dehinam gopika sutaha jnaninam chatma bhutanam yadha bhakti mata miha.
Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the son of a Gopi, Gopika Shuta, is not at all easy to attain for the Astanga yogis, who identify themselves with the body and who perform severe austerities. By performing severe austerities, you just actually land on the bodily platform. You're always thinking and concerned with the austerity that you're performing. In Satya Yuga, austerities were the Yuga Dharma. But who was it to attain? It was personalities like Vaikuntanath, Parameshwaraha, Yogeshwaraha, these great Aishwarya manifestations of Krishna. It wasn't Brajendrananda and Shyam Sundar. So austerities can be there if they are supportive for our devotion, like during the month of Kartik, for example. Perhaps we rise a little earlier, perhaps we chant more, perhaps we do Niyama Seva like this, all in the channel of devotion, all trying to increase our attraction to Krishna and to bring him under our control ultimately. Nor is he easy to attain for self-realized jnanis who are absorbed in all-pervading non-dual knowledge. But these loving associates who are absorbed in serving him, simply considering him to be the darling son of a gopi, have easily attained him. In other words, although the ascetics and impersonalists undergo great trouble, instead of attaining the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, they merely attain an incomplete or partial expansion of him. They can't achieve him fully. These verses have conveyed the aforementioned reason for being bound. So this reason is described in the footnote at the bottom, Bhakta Vashyata. Later in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna declares,
Devarshir me priyatamo yedimau dhanadaatmajo tattadha sadayishyami yadgitam tanmahatmana.
This is Bhagavatam 10.10.25. Devarshi Narad is my dear devotee. Therefore, even though these two brothers, the sons of the most wealthy demigod Kuvera, had no devotion to me. Still, I must fulfill Sri Narad's words by appearing directly before them and granting them my devotional service. So these two sons, Manigriva and Nalakuvera, were reprobates, it's described. They were sinful debauchees previously. They didn't have devotion for Krishna. And Krishna wasn't really so interested in them particularly. But because of Narad's benediction, then Krishna became concerned to liberate them. Only because of Narad. It was because, and like Dhruva Maharaj, Narad Rishi had told Dhruva, in 6 months you will see the Supreme Lord. So because of that blessing by Narad, the Lord appeared within 6 months. The deep meaning of this statement spoken by Sri Krishna is that he enacted the pastime of delivering the two sons of Kuvera in the form of the twin Arjun trees, because he was pleased by Sri Narad's devotion to him. Indeed, he enacts all his pastimes because he is pleased by the bhakti of his devotees. This is yet another important meaning of bhakti badam. He is bound by bhakti. So this is in reference to this verse. We are singing at the end of this verse, Stita Graivam Damodaram Bhakti Badam. This is the last words in this verse. So this is the reference that we've been hearing in this commentary. There's a very beautiful verse also in the 3rd canto, 4th chapter, 16th verse. Karmani anihasya bhavo bhavasyate. This is Uddhav, he's speaking to Vidura. Karmani anihasya bhavo bhavasyate. Karmani anihasya. Krishna works and he doesn't work. Bhavo bhavasyate. He's born and he's not born. Durgashraya tari bayat pralayanam. He's fear personified himself, and yet he runs and hides in a fortress in the ocean. And yet he's fear personified himself. This is a complete contradiction. Kalatmano yat pramodyata yuteshram. He's the most renounced, and yet he lives with 16,108 queens, and he's the most renounced. How do you reconcile this? Swatman rate kityati dir vidam iha. Uddhav is saying, this bewilders the scholars. They can't imagine that he's born and not born, works and doesn't work. He's fear personified, yet he runs away and hides from his enemies. They seem to be contradictions. But the devotee, the bhakta, he can reconcile these through his affection and attraction to Krishna. Krishna is so beautiful, he can do all these things. It's achintya. It's achintya, it's inconceivable. And if you have great faith and great love and devotion for Krishna, that quality of achintya is beautiful to appreciate. So we can reconcile very easily that Krishna can move and not move at the same time. He's born and not born at the same time. Because of our devotion, we can accept these things. Someone who is not a devotee and only in logic and so on can never accept these propositions. So this was the commentary of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj on this 2nd verse. So now we'll go straight into the commentary of my Gurudev, the Digdarshani Vritti, and this is now on page 40. So he begins by going back into the Leela. On this day, Sri Krishna, the personality who causes the 3 worlds to tremble merely by the movement of his eyebrows, has become overwhelmed by fear for his mother. This is amazing. That Krishna should become fearful of his mother, even though he's the supreme controller of all the worlds. Seeing the tiny stick in her hand, he is trembling and stammers, "Mother, look, do not hit me. I did not break the pot of yogurt." Mother Yashoda is slightly full-figured. As she was running, her braid came undone, and the flowers woven in her hair began falling out. It is as if the flowers were saying, "Mother, you are not alone. We are also with you." Those devotees who make their hearts spotless by endlessly drinking the nectar of devotion to Sri Krishna, imbued with extreme attachment and laced with renunciation of the material world. Obviously, that happens simultaneously. As your devotion to Krishna, the absolute reality, increases, your attraction to this world is going to become minimal. This world stinks. There's no pleasure, there's no bliss in this world outside of the practice of devotion. There's only suffering. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, this birth, death, disease, and old age. That's all there is here. We know so many devotees who are suffering so much in the world. There's so much suffering in the world. So why would we want to keep attached to this material conception? We have to let it go and just take full shelter of the Lord. So this is what it means. With extreme attachment on one hand, laced with renunciation of the material world, attain a state of meditating on Sri Krishna deep within their immaculate hearts, which are fully saturated by loving service. The reality of this loving service we have to consider. Because there's service and there's loving service. We can do service, but are we doing loving service? This is demanding loving service. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj used to say like this: are you just doing seva, or are you doing prem seva? Are you with full heart, with bhav, serving the Lord? Or is it just like a ritual that we are supposed to do this? Where will that will purify our hearts in time, and we will come to this prem stage. So initially it starts at that place and evolves. This devotional practice is a journey of evolution for the consciousness, connecting with the loving sentiments of the heart that are already there. Prakatamriti sadyate. This is saying that in potential, this is already there. This kriti sadhya bhavat sadhya bhavsa saranavida. Nitya siddhyasya bhavas. Nitya siddhyasya. It's already there, eternally. But prakatamriti sadyate. But in potential. It hasn't actually manifested. I was thinking today also about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has the potential to taste this Ashraya Tattva, because that was the purpose of his birth. He's carrying that Radha Bhav, but it doesn't come out until he actually goes to the Godavari river and meets Ramananda Rai. Why? Because Ramananda Rai is Vishaka. What sort of relationship did Vishaka have with Sri Radha? They're born at the same moment. Vishaka and Radha are born at the same moment. Vishaka is the most dear Saki of Sri Radha. So she's carrying that mood of Saki Bhav and affection and attraction for Radha. So this is what she can inspire within the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because it's only from this conversation with Ramananda Rai that Saki Bhav rises in the heart of Mahaprabhu. And from this point, after this Ramananda Rai Samvad, then Mahaprabhu begins tasting that Saki Bhav fully. But he had to catch that from somebody. This is always the case in every single description. It always has to have a seed, it has to have a root, like we just described about Narad inspiring the heart of Satyabrat Muni. Narad also inspiring Devarshi and so many other personalities. And Mahaprabhu was inspired ultimately by Madhavendra Puri, then Ishwara Puri, and then it's coming to Mahaprabhu. But this Saki Bhav is actually inspired by Ramananda Rai, who is Vishaka Devi. She is inspiring an appreciation, a depth of love and affection, attraction, because of her overwhelming prem for Sri Radha. These are the Astasakis. They have complete prem for Sri Radha and Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Narayan sometimes appears in the meditations of Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, and the four Kumaras, the original sages. Still, even in their deepest meditation, they cannot capture him in the form of Brajendranandan Sri Krishna. Yet Mother Yashoda actually bound him. The complete embodiment of all nectarian humours of transcendental love. The embodiment, Raso Vaisa. He's the complete embodiment of all conceptions of love in existence, is Krishna. And Mother Yashoda, by her love, controlled that. So her love is greater than that. It must be greater to control him, isn't it? That's the conclusion. Mother Yashoda's love was greater than Krishna's love. She caught him from behind. It's greater. It's like the gopis, the same. Krishna told them all to go home when he played his flute song. But their praying for him controlled him, and he accepted them and began the Ras Leela. It was coming from them. Yet Mother Yashoda actually bound him, the complete embodiment of all nectarian humours of transcendental love. Unimaginably powerful warriors, despite their greatest valour, pose no threat to Krishna. Krishna is not afraid of the most powerful warriors in existence. Banasura, Jarasandha, so many Salva, so many great powerful warriors attack Krishna just easily. Defeated Hiranyakashipu in the form of Nrsimhadev. Krishna easily, they have no threat but love. Krishna is beaten by, he's controlled by. This is what it's saying. But Mother Yashoda not only captured him, she brandished a small stick in her hand and threatened him. Shall I beat you now? As Kanaya rubbed his tear-filled eyes and tried to hide behind his mother. So he's a little boy, but he's running behind her skirts, behind her sari. He's hiding, trying to hide behind his own mother. He cried out, "Mother, do not hit me." He did not look directly at her. He only looked fearfully at the stick in her hand. He wasn't trying to connect with Mother. He was wanting Mother to know he was afraid of this stick. Please drop the stick. I'm so afraid of that stick. You monkey friend, she exclaimed. Caught Chora. How do you say that? Chora?
Chora.
Chora. Thief. And there's a footnote that actually in Yashoda's dynasty, there was a thief called Chora Ghosh, Gopa. To this, Sri Krishna replied, "Mother, there is no Chora in my dynasty. There is only a Chora in your dynasty." So cheeky boy. My God, he's about to be beaten and he's telling his mother this? "Oh, really?" she retorted. "You did not steal the butter? Then who was feeding the monkeys?" Kanaya replied, "He who made the monkeys was feeding them." She wouldn't have understood that at all. But this is just the truth that he's saying. Because it's so deeply philosophical. Mother Yashoda's not going in that route. "Oh, is that so?" she said. "Tell me frankly, who broke this pot? Look, Mother, when you ran to save the milk, your large ankle bells hit the pot and it broke." "Then how did you get butter all over your face?" she asked. "Mother, the monkeys were eating the butter, so I was trying to scare them away. As they were running, they smeared butter all over my mouth." And Mother Yashoda, she's hearing this from her son. Krishna is so brilliant, and her son, Mother, realizes his brilliance. She gets defeated by his brilliance also, and then loves him even more. Hearing this exchange, all the gopis began to laugh. "I am not about to set you free so easily," Mother Yashoda said. "I am going to tie you up." Mother Yashoda's mood was grave. If I don't chastise him, she thought, he will become quite a troublemaker. With this in mind, she decided to bind him. Although Shri Krishna started to cry, she did not let him go. She thought to herself, "I will keep him tied up for a while, and when I have finished churning the yogurt, I will untie him and feed him butter and breast milk to calm him down." Mother Yashoda considered, Krishna is Kala, a cunning and mischievous thief, and his accomplice is Ulukal, the grinding mortar. Both deserve to be punished. I will tie them together in such a way that Krishna cannot untie himself from the mortar. Thinking thus, she proceeded to bind him.
Taddama bhajyamanasya स्वार्भकस्य कृतागसः द्वय्यङ्गुलो न मभूत्तेन सन्धधेन्यच्च गोपिका.
Translation. When Mother Yashoda tried to bind her mischievous child, the rope was 2 fingers too short, so she tied it to another rope. She had removed the silk ribbon from her braid in order to bind Krishna with it. Other than the gold chain around his waist, Krishna was quite naked. Although his tiny waist measured no more than 12 fingers, the ribbon could not be made to bind him. It was 2 fingers too short. Mother Yashoda asked her friend for another rope, but that was also too short. Time and again she gathered and added more rope, but it was always too short, and only 2 fingers too short, not more, not less. There is an esoteric meaning to this. 1 finger represents the sadhak's endeavors, and the other finger represents the Lord's mercy. Sri Bhagavan becomes controlled by his devotee only when both of these elements are present together. So there's Chesta and Kripa. When both of these elements are together, then the Lord will be controlled. So we'll stop here today, and we'll continue tomorrow to hear more of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj's description of this Dambanda Leela. But it's all only about love. That's all it's about, the whole Damordarastakam. That's why this Damordarastakam is so pure and beautiful and should be meditated on regularly. Sri Damordarastakam ki jai. So now we'll come to our... Then principally, this whole Astakam is opening out the power of prema, the power of devotion, the power of bhakti. This is what this whole Damordarastakam is about. And it's interesting to appreciate that there are 3 stages, we can say, or considerations in our devotion. There's Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas. This means I want to serve, my service to Krishna. Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas. And then there's Anukul Prapti Abhilas. I want to serve Krishna favorably. So that's like an upgrade from just serving to serving favorably. And then Sohad Abhilas. I want to serve Krishna in a friendly way. So again, it's evolving. So as our devotion itself evolves from one day, 1 minute to the next practically, similarly this Astakam is also evolving through all the different rasas and ultimately culminating with service to Sri Radhika. So this is the current of this Astakam, this Damordarastakam. So yesterday we were hearing about Krishna rubbing his eyes. This verse, Rudantam Muhur Netra Yugram Rijantam, Karamboja Yugmena Satanka Netram, Muhu Swasakampa, Tri Rehanka Kanta, Stita Graiva Damodaram Bhakti Badam. And this, I'll read the translation. Seeing the stick in his mother's hand and fearful of being beaten, he is weeping incessantly and rubbing his eyes again and again with his 2 lotus-like hands. His eyes are extremely restless and filled with fear. He takes heavy breaths again and again that cause the pearls and other ornaments around his neck, which are marked with 3 graceful curving lines, to tremble. O Damodar, you have been bound by your mother's Vatsalya Bhakti. I offer my obeisances unto that Damodar. So this is so remarkable that we're hearing this pastime of how it's the only time, Radharani binds Krishna with her garland and her affection and so on, and the gopis, of course, they control Krishna with their smaratarati. But it's the only time really when Krishna is directly bound to a grinding mortar. And it's described that he doesn't want to be bound. Therefore, this Vibhuti Shakti, is there. This Vibhuti Shakti is Krishna's opulence. So that rises within him. He doesn't want to be bound. So this Satya Sankalpa, anything that Krishna desires is going to manifest by his potencies. So his potencies, his Aishwarya potency, won't allow himself to be bound. And then finally, when Krishna sees the exertion of his mother, then his mood of Karuna Shakti, this compassionate mood, comes in his heart, and then he allows himself to be bound by Mother Yashoda. So this is what we're going to hear about. So now we're on page 42, and there's a description here. The Ramanuja Sampradaya is divided in two, according to whether they emphasize the Vedic scriptures or the Tamil scriptures. The former are known as Radha-kunda, and the latter as Tain-kalai. Is it correct? Tain-kalai. They have distinct opinions regarding the means of ultimate attainment. The view of Radha-kunda Ramanujas is based on grace arising from a cause. Their stance is compared to Markata Nyaya, the analogy of a baby monkey clinging to his mother for protection. This is one type. When the mother monkey moves about with her baby, she makes no effort to hold him. Instead, the baby clings onto her as she leaps from tree to tree. If he falls, his mother will never accept him again. So this is all the effort of the bhakta. Conversely, the view of Tain-kalai Ramanujas is based on causeless grace. Their stance is compared to Madhurya Nyaya, the analogy of the cat carrying the kitten in her mouth. The mother cat picks up her kitten with her teeth and carries him about. The kitten does not make any effort and goes wherever she takes him. So there's these two distinct conceptions. One is that we have to make full effort to come to Krishna, and the other is that we have to be full Sharanagati and just sit back in the lap of the Lord, and he will take care of everything. So which one is correct? I'll read on. Thus, the followers of the Veda-kala school strive for the grace of Bhagavan by their own efforts, and conversely, the followers of the Tain-kala school rely solely on faith in the causeless grace of Bhagavan, considering their own endeavors ineffective. The Gaudiya Vaishnava school asserts that both views are necessary. Both. The following analogy is given to illustrate this stance. A person who has fallen into a well will cry, "Please help me, pull me out." Then from above, someone may lower a rope into the well and say, "I am lowering down a rope. Catch hold of it and I will pull you out." However, if the person in the well does not catch hold of the rope, he will not be freed. From his end, he must hold onto the rope, and from above, he must be pulled out. So both considerations should be there. We should be dependent on the Lord fully for his grace, and similarly, we have to make our effort to go towards the Lord. This example is beautiful. A rope down a well. The person in the well, he has to make an effort to hold on to the rope. If he doesn't make the effort to hold on to the rope, he's not going to be pulled out. So if he just thinks, "Oh yes, Krishna will save me, Krishna will save me." There's that example of a man from a village, and they were building a dam close by, and the residents came and said, "You have to go from here because they're building a dam and you'll be flooded out." And he said, no, I'll just depend on Krishna. So the dam was built and all the water backed up and he was flooded, and then he was sitting on the roof of his house, and then a helicopter came to pick him up, and he said, no, I'm just depending on Krishna. And then eventually he left his body, and then he came to Krishna, and he said, "You didn't save me." And he said, "Well, I sent the people to warn you, I sent the helicopter to pick you up, etc. You didn't make the effort. How can he be saved without making an effort?" Do you understand what I've said? How can we move forward without making some type of effort? We make an effort, but we depend on Krishna for the result. There's the expression that man proposes and God disposes. We make the effort, and it's up to Krishna to actually fulfill that desire. We don't have any control over the desire of our actions, or the result of our actions, rather. So these are the two analogies that are given. In this example, the person in the well cries out for help and later firmly catches hold of the rope. These endeavors are the means of his deliverance. In other words, they are his sadhan. From above, the person who is trying to pull him out is bestowing causeless mercy. For someone helplessly fallen in the well of material existence, Sri Bhagavan's causeless mercy descends just like this rope, and by performing sadhan, one takes hold of that rope and achieves service to his lotus feet. So very simple, but very clear that it must be both, because we know the two ends of the rope are chesta and kripa, effort and mercy, which we have to appreciate this. Mother Yashoda did not give up in her attempt to bind Krishna. She kept trying. All the gopis began to clap their hands and say, "Oh mother, the Creator has not written on this boy's forehead that he will be bound, so how can you tie him up?" Mother Yashoda felt ashamed. This is so embarrassing, she thought. I have not been able to bind the child that came from my own womb. There's the description by Jiva Goswami of that jata sanskar, that cutting of the umbilical cord in Gopal Champu, demonstrating that Krishna directly comes from the womb of Mother Yashoda. In the dungeon of Kamsa, Krishna manifested outside of Devaki. He manifested as a 16-year-old youth with a beautiful crown and jewels and ornaments and so on, that he manifested in Mathura. But he actually takes birth directly from the womb of Mother Yashoda. But it's described that in that festival of cutting the umbilical cord, the nurse was amazed that actually Krishna doesn't have an umbilical cord. In its place was a lotus flower. In the center of his abdomen was a beautiful lotus. So it had already been actually cut and developed into a beautiful lotus. So they were all astonished at this auspicious sign in Krishna's navel. Taking shelter of Bhagavan, Sri Narayan, she silently began to pray. "O Narayan, please help me. If I cannot bind this boy today, it will be so shameful for me. Protect my honor." Her face had become reddish like the rising sun, and drops of perspiration had begun to roll down her face like pearls. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-18 describes this as follows.
Somatus swinnagatraya visrastastaka barasrajaha trustva parishramam krishnaha krupayasit swabandhane.
Sri Krishna saw that his mother's body had become drenched with perspiration. The garlands woven into her braid had fallen out, and she had become utterly exhausted. Seeing his mother's fatigue, little Krishna compassionately allowed himself to be bound. So this is what I said in the beginning. Krishna's Shaktis were manifesting, his Vibhuti Shakti, his Satya Sankalpa Shakti, and was not allowing him to be bound because he didn't want to be bound. But when this Karuna Shakti manifested, then that all melted away. Sadhaks should perform sadhan bhajan with the same unwavering determination and hard endeavor. Then Sri Krishna's heart will melt, and he will be compelled to bestow his sublime devotional service upon them. This service is something that is internally present Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunai, but it can't be accessed by direct sadhana. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Korye Odai. It rises by hearing the pastimes of Krishna, like we're hearing now. It arises by chanting, kirtan, and remembering the pastimes of Krishna. That's how the current of devotion will manifest in the heart. It's already there in the heart. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, it's already in the heart. We say the other verse, Kriti Sadhya Bhavet Sadhya Bhav Sasaranabhida, Nitya Siddhyasya Prakatam. It's already in the heart, but it will rise from hearing, from the Shuddha Bhakta, from the Mahabhagavat, from the pure Guru. Just like the analogy of fire. Fire is in all wood. All wood has the element of fire, but that wood can never be ignited until another piece of fire touches it. Another piece of wood touches that fire. So similarly, that Shuddha Bhakti, that pure Bhakti, it can't arise in the heart until it's inspired by the Mahabhagavat. Guru is the principle in all of our journeys, in all of our sadhana. Without his mercy, then we have no hope of attaining that supreme. Actually, when we think about all the personalities in our Guru Varga, like every day we talk from Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Gopal, all the way, Krishna's Kaviraj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti. These are like stepping stones. Their instructions are like stepping stones. If we take the instructions of these personalities, we can stay above the material whirlpool of attraction to the illusory energy. Every single person in our line is like that. If we take shelter of those individual persons, that's why it's very fortunate to glorify the appearance and disappearance days also of all these illustrious personalities that come. And we use these stepping stones, we use the instructions as stepping stones to attain that other reality, that spiritual reality, that reality of devotion. It's inspired by them to actually come to that state of, it's like we cross over a stage of consciousness when we have no more doubts about the spiritual reality, when our attraction and attachment to this material world slackens sufficiently, and we see it for its reality, its temporary nature, then we are much more eligible to cross into that spiritual world. So the doubts have to be cleansed. The doubts are in the heart, the hridrogam. These doubts, because of so many sinful desires, separate from that of serving the Lord. Sadhaks should perform sadhan bhajan with the same unwavering determination and hard endeavor. Then Sri Krishna's heart will melt, and he will be compelled to bestow his sublime devotional service upon them. Indeed, when Krishna saw his mother's firm resolve, his heart melted, and his topmost potency, his mercy, the totality of all his powers combined, then manifested as his bhakta vatsalyata, his affection for his devotees. At that moment, his Aishwarya Shakti, the potency of supreme majesty, disappeared and allowed himself to be bound. And he allowed himself to be bound. That Aishwarya Shakti is called Vibhuti Shakti. It's Krishna's powerful, opulent Shakti. Mother Yashoda made an intense endeavor with unflinching resolve. Following her example, sadhaks should try to melt Sri Krishna's heart, and by practicing devotional service that is imbued with characteristics like sincere, loving emotions, bhav, great enthusiasm, and anxiousness, utkanta, deep sense of closeness and relationship, sambandha, a feeling of possessiveness, mamata, an intense affection for him, priti. They should compel him to engage them in loving service to him. It's the onus is with us. It's like we just described the kitten philosophy and the monkey philosophy. So it's both. We have to make the effort like the monkey, and we also have to depend on Krishna's mercy. But we have to perform sincere sadhana, because we've been describing the last couple of days how we have to generate more attraction to Krishna like Mother Yashoda had. She's the one who caught him. He didn't want to be caught. He was running for his life practically away from the stick in fear. But she ran faster than him. So this was the lesson, that we have to run quickly to Krishna, enthusiastically. And all these expressions of these sincere, loving emotions, bhav, utkanta, sambandha, mamata, and priti, must be rising in the heart of the sadhak. Very clear direction for our sadhana bhajan, very explicit. Regarding the previously mentioned verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with Svamatu, an important point must be considered. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in his commentary on this verse, Krishna's waist measures only 12 fingers, and the length of the rope continually increased. Why then could his mother still not bind him? Krishna was thinking, my important daily activities of stealing butter and playing with my friends will be stopped. These are very important considerations for Krishna. We might find it amusing, but for baby Krishna, this was his principal focus for the day, to steal butter. He had a plan to steal so much more butter, and he wanted to play with his friends. This was his life as a child. This was his consideration. My important daily activities of stealing butter and playing with my friends will be stopped, so my mother should not tie me up. Immediately his Aishwarya Shakti, which makes the impossible possible, manifested herself within him and proceeded to serve him. Consequently, although the size of his waist remained the same, and although the rope was made so long, his mother could not bind him. This is incredible. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can manifest this Achintya Shakti, but at the same time, he is really and truly in the consciousness of being a little baby. He's both at the same time. This should make us more enthusiastic to love this person who can have both considerations running simultaneously. Achintya Shakti, remarkable, totally beyond any kind of material comprehension. The Braja Gopis who were witnessing this pastime, along with Mother Yashoda, could not understand its mystery. Why was the rope 2 fingers too short? Sri Krishna could not be bound by ordinary rope, because all arrangements for his pastimes are made exclusively by his own intrinsic potency, Yogamaya. Furthermore, there is no outside or inside of Sri Krishna, nor is there any beginning or end to him. The rope is actually glorified in the last verse. In the last verse, the rope specifically itself is glorified. He exists eternally in his Swarup, both before the creation of the phenomenal universes and after their total destruction. In the interim, he pervades all the universes, residing within each of their atoms. Yet all the while, he remains Akila Rasamrita Murti, the original form of condensed transcendent nectar in its totality. In fact, Raso Vaisa, he is nectar. Thus, Sri Krishna, being forever beyond the purview of mundane sense perception, is thoroughly inconceivable. Yet Mother Yashoda simply regards him as her son. So this is a beautiful example of that Chatushloki of the Bhagavatam, Yata Mahanti Bhutani, where it's describing the great elements are within this universe, and yet the great elements have their own individual identity also, both simultaneously. All the elements are in this world, and yet those elements have their own individual unique natures. They remain in there. So Krishna is like that. Krishna is manifesting in all the worlds, but at the same time he has his own individual nature simultaneously. This is how we can understand it a little bit. Srimad Bhagavatam opens that understanding in that verse. Thinking of him in that way, she behaves with him in such a natural and seemingly ordinary way with her relationship with him, that her relationship with him may even appear to be like a relationship from this world. But because of that simple, loving relationship, she was actually able to bind Krishna. Shri Krishna can never be bound by someone who has not abandoned all separate interests for separate enjoyment, selfish enjoyment, which are in opposition with the tendency to please him. He will only become bound by someone who cultivates uttam bhakti. Internet. Which are in opposition with the tendency to please him. So we've just discussed that we need to generate the conception of wanting to please Krishna more than our expectations of him pleasing us. We should have no expectations of him pleasing us. The gopis had no expectations. The gopis, their love was simply to satisfy Krishna's calm, satisfy Krishna's desires. That was their only desire in their hearts at all. Therefore they were qualified. That's Samartarati. They could control Krishna. He will only become bound by someone who cultivates uttam bhakti, which is the inherent function of one's perfected constitutional identity, and which is uninhibited by fruitive acts, mystic yoga, and dry knowledge. Therefore, Sri Bhagavan's power of compassion and mercy, the topmost among all his potencies, only becomes manifest by the performance of such uttam bhakti. In its presence, his Aishwarya Shakti, the power by which he displays his supreme majesty, becomes powerless. When Sri Krishna manifests his mercy potency, he is controlled of his own accord. In their previous lives, Devaki and Vasudeva performed extremely severe penances, but even they could not bind Sri Krishna. So there's a footnote here. Although Sri Krishna awarded them their desired benediction of becoming their son, he performed all of his sweet childhood pastimes in Braj, away from their vision. When he returned to them in his later pastimes, his identity as the Supreme Lord was revealed. He only returns to them as the Supreme Lord. He never comes in that sweet Madhurya mood. This Madhurya mood is so rare. This is the whole what we're discussing. It's so sweet. These Damordarastakam, these commentaries, are really revealing the true nature of Madhurya Bhav. What is the nature of that speciality? Totally selfless. Because to control Krishna, then there can be no separate motive on the part of Mother Yashoda. Didn't have any other motive except to bind her son. This was her only motivation, to train him to not be so restless. As a mother, she was performing this pastime. But then, what then can be said of others who try to bind him? He may willingly come under the control of a sadhak when he sees them eagerly perform loving service to him with great persistence. But he cannot be attracted by austerities alone. He is only attracted by sincere love. So I said at the beginning today about these 3 stages of devotion. This Bhagavat, Prapti, Abhilas, this is described in chapter 22 of the Jivadhamma. Bhagavat, Prapti, Abhilas, and then that is just straight service. But that's not sufficient. What is favorable service? Anukul Abhilas. And then even more than that, Sohard Abhilas. What is that? Service in friendship. So there's 3 stages. Often when we're doing programs, I ask all the people, who wants service to Krishna? Oh yes, everyone puts their hand up. Who wants favorable service to Krishna? Oh, now I'm thinking more. Okay, yes, I want that. Now who wants friendly, favorable service? And then again, it's another leap of appreciation. All these considerations have to be there on the path of the sadhak, so he can temper his vision to this very selective point of pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti. Before the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bhakti was evident within the world, but not Bhakti Ras. Bhakti Ras was not evident. This was begun by who? Madhavendra Puripad. Madhavendra Puripad, he is the Prem Ankur. He is the seed of Bhav Bhakti that he gifted to Ishwara Puri, who is the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's the line. But it began with Madhavendra Puri. Prior to that, there was no Bhav Bhakti demonstrated. Sri Rupa Goswami fulfilled the inner desire of Sriman Mahaprabhu within the sacred texts he compiled, especially Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Sri Ujjvala Nilamani. He perfectly delineated the meaning of Bhakti Ras. It's described in the Jivadhamma that Bhakti Ras is the function of Krishna Bhakti when it becomes absolutely pure. When our Krishna Bhakti becomes absolutely pure, then it transforms into Bhakti Ras. It's the purest part of our practice of devotion. And this is what Mahaprabhu has come to give, come to bestow. Rag Mag Bhakti Loke Korite Prajan. He's come to give this Bhakti Ras to the world. Within this, he perfectly delineated, describing all of its divisions and subdivisions in full detail. Sriman Mahaprabhu has propagated Bhakti Ras through his most confidential associates, Sri Swarup Damodar, Sri Ramananda Rai, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, my own Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and others. So I described just a few minutes ago how our Guru Varga are like stepping stones. We take shelter of each one of them through their instructions, and they will carry us across into the pure upper conception of the spiritual reality. They will take us out of this world only when we really want to go. When I've had enough of my attachments in this world. But if I'm holding on to something, it's not going to manifest. It's like the wedding party. They were in a boat and they were rowing all night, but they were drunk and they had the anchor out. They didn't get anywhere. They woke up in the morning and they were in the same place as they were before. They hadn't gone anywhere. Unless that anchor, what is that anchor? That's our material beliefs, our material conditioning. I have more faith in the material world and its organization and management and governments, etc., than I do in the Supreme Lord's arrangements. Everything is happening by the Supreme Lord's arrangements. Everything that is going on. He's arranging everything. But man, in his illusion state, thinks that he's so important that he is arranging everything, but he's not doing anything. So when my detachment from this world becomes profound sufficiently, then I get closer to the spiritual reality, the pure reality of the spiritual world. Do I really want to go to the spiritual world? Or am I more concerned with my material situation, my material prosperity, my material relationship, reputation, my material, that essay from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati I sent you the other day. All of those things, they hang on to us. They're subtle and gross. Bhakti Ras. Oh yes. So all these personalities my Gurudev is mentioning. Mother Yashoda wound the rope around Krishna's belly, tied him to the grinding mortar, and then went to churn the yogurt, her mind remaining on her son all the while. Just then, Dam, Sridam, Sudam, Madhu Mangal, and Krishna's other sakhas arrived. Mother Rohini also returned to Nanda Bhavan from the house of Upananda, along with her son Baladev Prabhu, who then entered the group of sakhas. When he saw that his little brother had been tied up and that he was crying, he became furious. Tears mixed with black cosmetic ointment were streaming from Krishna's eyes. On one side, where the ointment was totally washed away, it looked like the clear river Ganga. And on the other side, where the tears were dark from the mixing with the ointment, it looked like the blackish Jamuna. Thus the two rivers were cascading onto his chest. Enraged, Baladev Prabhu asked Kanaya and the sakhas, who bound him? Baladev Prabhu thought, whoever has bound my Kanaya, I will punish this very day. Then Madhu Mangal whispered into Baladev's ear, it was Mother Yashoda who bound Krishna. As soon as he heard Mother Yashoda's name, he became silent. Everyone is afraid of Mother Yashoda. She is the controlling by her immense maternal affection. She controls by her immense affection. She only has in her heart the very best for both of her children. Baladev is like her son also. After a few moments, he tried to open the knot. However, he was unable to untie Mother Yashoda's strong knot. This is because the love of devotees in Vatsalya Ras, parental love, is superior to the love of devotees in Sakya Ras, friendship. At this point, Baladev Prabhu is in his Sakya mood. And that was not as potent as the Vatsalya mood. Incidentally, had Baladev Prabhu been situated in the form as Ananga Manjari, wherein he is devoted to Krishna in the highest ras, Madhurya Ras, conjugal love, he could have untied the knot. But although all the sakhas kept working together to untie Krishna, they were not successful. So cheeky, boys. Mother Yashoda's bound him. She's punished him. And Krishna is thinking that he doesn't deserve to punish. He's just broken a whole pot of fresh yogurt. He spilled it all over the floor. I mean, it seems to be okay that Mother Yashoda punished him. But Krishna, as a child, as an independent child, that there's no other consideration. It's what does he want? And he had other agendas. He wanted more milk from his mother. So he didn't see anything else. But we, from a material point of view, or from a social point of view, will think that, yes, Krishna was a very naughty boy. He deserved to be bound. But the sakhas didn't think that at all for a minute. Sri Krishna gradually stopped crying. Even he was unable to set himself free. Yes, he couldn't open the knot from Mother Yashoda. Come on, the sakhas told him. We will tip over the grinding mortar and drag it out into the courtyard and play. At that moment, he remembered the incident that occurred long ago between the two sons of Kuvera and his dear devotee. This is Narad. And he thought,
Devarshir priyatamo yadimau dhanadaatmajo tattadha sadhaishyami edgitam tanmahatmana.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10:10-25. Devarshi Narad is my most dear devotee. Therefore, even though these two brothers, the sons of the most wealthy demigod Kuvera, had no devotion for me. Still, I must fulfill Sri Narad's words by appearing directly before them and granting them devotional service to me. So this is an example of Kripa Siddhi, where they're going to get devotion bestowed upon them. They have no justification for their devotion, except they had been trees in the village of Braj for 100 celestial years, but they had no devotion directly. Kuvera was the dear friend of Devarshi Narad, and his two sons were Nalakuvera and Manigriva. One day, while they were bathing in the Mandakini celestial Ganga with heavenly damsels, their intoxication from being wealthy, beautiful, figured, youthful, and of noble birth became further inflamed by drinking wine. At that time, Devarshi Narad passed by. When the ladies saw that he had come, they hurried out of the water, dressed themselves, and offered him obeisances. But Nalakuvera and Manigriva, blinded by arrogance, did not offer obeisances. In fact, they stood there naked and mused, "Where has this person come from?" Ignoring the great sage, they shamelessly proceeded to call for the heavenly damsels to return. When Sri Narad beheld the degraded behavior of Nalakuvera and Manigriva, he was overwhelmed with compassion for them. Outwardly, he feigned anger and shouted a curse. "Your behavior befits that of trees. So be it. Become trees." Upon hearing the curse uttered by Devarshi Narad, they were filled with fear. Falling at his feet and weeping, they begged for pardon. "How can we be delivered?" they asked. All of a sudden, their bodies actually started to become trees. Their toes and their hands and everything became like trees. They knew the reality of this curse. They were terrified. They came to their senses straight away. Upon hearing the curse uttered by Devarshi Narad, they were filled with fear. Falling at his feet and weeping, they begged for pardon. "How can we be delivered?" they asked. Sri Narad replied, "Both of you will become twin Arjun trees near the house of Nanda Maharaj in Gokul. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, Swayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna will deliver you in the course of enacting his childhood pastimes." When Sri Krishna remembered his devotee's curse, he was overwhelmed with compassion for the two sons of Kuvera. Just to deliver them, he dragged the heavy grinding mortar towards the extremely large Arjun trees. And there's a footnote here. It's saying the ancient Arjun trees grow extremely large. According to Sri Narad's curse, Nalakuvera and Manigriva remained in the form of Arjun trees for 100 celestial years, or about 15 million earth years. 15 million earth years. He dragged the heavy grinding large armies with all of his friends. The trees were fused at their base, like a single base, but two trees. But somehow Sri Krishna passed between them. The grinding mortar, however, became lodged between the trees. As soon as Sri Krishna tugged at the grinding mortar with some force, the two trees were completely uprooted. At once they began falling over and finally struck the ground, producing a deafening crash. Then from within the ancient trees, two divine personalities emerged. They circumambulated Sri Krishna and submitted prayers in glorification of him. After they begged to be forgiven for their offense, Sri Krishna explained, "It is the unfailing result of seeing Sri Narad that even such rogues as the two of you are able to see me face to face, and the sum total of all the sins you have committed in your countless births has fled far away from you. May you attain Bhava Bhakti for me. By Krishna's causeless mercy, from that point onward, they became the famous reciters, Madhukanta and Snigdhakanta. Thus, as Sri Krishna's special associates, they eternally narrate his unlimited pastimes in the assemblies of Sri Nanda Baba and the Gopis. So this is all described in Gopal Champu by Srila Jiva Goswami. Madhukanta and Snigdhakanta, they're speaking all Krishna's pastimes to all the Brajvasis. It's very, very beautiful, this Gopal Champu. That which cannot be obtained even after accumulating pious credit sukriti for millions of lifetimes can be achieved very quickly by the causeless mercy of Sri Guru, Vaishnavas and Sri Hari. This is a very important point. Millions of lifetimes can be just cut by the mercy of Guru, Vaishnavas and Hari himself. The devotees who are expert in relishing the loving moods of the Braja Gopis are the treasure house of Lobhamoy Bhakti, devotion to Sri Krishna, that is full of intense longing. It's this greed. Unless we have this sacred greed, this Lobhamoyi, then we cannot move towards Krishna in bhakti. If our greed is distracted by our various material attractions, it won't be direct, it'll be compromised. Just a little bit running each day and the rest of the time attending to our material attachments. This is what has to be purified. This is the path of our sadhan bhajan, is to reduce all of those material attachments and just come to this point of focused greed. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati kriyato tarabilabite tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti shukritya na labhyate. This was the verse that when Ramananda Rai was hearing, when Mahaprabhu was hearing from Rai Ramananda, that he said, yes, this is bhakti. Now, tell me more about this. This greed, this sacred greed. My Gurudev talks about this all the time. It's the principal generating energy of our bhakti, is that greed, that enthusiasm, utkanta. Lobhamoy Bhakti, devotion to Sri Krishna that is full of intense longing. Among them, some exemplify one's own desired mood and are affectionate towards oneself. Sajatya Snigdha. If one gets their association, then he should realize that they are the most dear friends of his soul. With his life and soul, he should serve them and endeavor to purchase their mood. How can such moods be attained? When a person hankers for the same relationship, sambandha, that these great Rasik devotees have with their Swamini, Sri Radha, and with her companions, and when he hankers to have the same deep possessiveness, mamata, for her, and the same intense inclination to serve her, seva vasana, then he can attain these moods. Only then can one truly serve such Rasik personalities, and then is one's life successful. There is no other way. That's an incredible... All of these instructions and directions and descriptions are really powerful. And it's all generating from this Damordarastakam, originally Satyabrat Muni. But the hearts of the Srila Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj are bringing these out to life. So these are very significant instructions. Okay, we'll stop there today and proceed tomorrow. But this is really packed with inspirational guidance for our bhajan in this month of Kartik. That's why we hear it in Kartik, because it's the most condensed, intense focus. Mother Yashoda had to be so intense and focused to capture Krishna. How did she do that? Through her love, her mamata. We can do the same through our submission to Gurudev's direction and guidance. Like I said at the very beginning, all of our Guru Varga, they're all offering the same opportunity. If we take them very, very seriously, every single one of them, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Rupa Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj, all of them, listen to all of their instructions and guidance with whole open heart and soul, and take them, drink them deeply into our lives to practice. And then we'll come close to qualifying for this bhakti ras that is being described. So Srila Gurudev ki jai, Damordarastakam ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Gaur Premanande. So I'm just appreciating so much this commentary of my Gurudev and Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. I've read this so many times, my book is full of notes, but I'm feeling that by speaking it like this, I'm appreciating it so significantly. It's so much pointing in the direction of what is pure bhakti. To please Krishna, to run faster than Krishna, like Mother Yashoda caught him from behind. This understanding that we must serve Krishna more than he is expected to serve us. This is pure bhakti. So these are very high conceptions, because most people pray to the Lord, oh, help me, help me, help me, give me this, give me that. But the bhakta is always asking, what can I give? What can I give? How can I please? How can I? It changes the whole, this is what a devotee is. He's always anxious to please the Lord. So I want to read the paragraph that we read yesterday, the one before we're up to, because I think it's so significant. It's on page 49, halfway down the page. That which cannot be obtained even after accumulating pious credit, sukriti, for millions of lifetimes, can be achieved very quickly by the causeless mercy of Sri Guru, Vaishnavas and Hari, Sri Hari. We can attain sukriti in this material realm, but the realm we are interested in is across the Viraja River into the transcendental realm. And those personalities who are situated across the river have the capability to bring us across the river. If they have, by their causeless mercy, come to this world, and they are ready to take us across that transcendental barrier, that Viraja River, take us into that transcendental land. If our doubts are cleared, it's this point of doubt that usually holds us back. Do we really believe? We don't see the spiritual world in a conditioned vision, but do we actually believe the spiritual world to be an absolute reality? That faith has to be so fixed, that nishta has to be so strong, like the nishta of Prahlad. Prahlad Maharaj's nishta. He was thrown off the cliffs. He was not thinking Krishna's going to catch me. He was thinking, Rake Krishna Marake, Mare Krishna, whatever Krishna wants to do. Krishna is the supreme controller. He will decide what he wants to do. Not that he was asking for anything. He was asking for seva. Sharanagati, yes. Yes, nishta, the quality of nishta, complete, without any doubt. No doubt. So if we, therefore, to relinquish our faith and belief in this world, this has to be dismantled. How much faith do we have in this world? Oh, I'll go to a hospital and save my life. It doesn't. Usually they kill you. They stick you on a ventilator, they give you full of drugs. There's all kinds of yamadutas in the hospitals, etc., etc. You know, but so many beliefs are coming from the material conception of man's control over the world. And we have been brought up in that atmosphere to believe in it. But now we're hearing, actually, this is all temporary, the illusory energy. None of it has any eternal value whatsoever. It is all going to become complete dust, annihilated. It's just an illusion. So it's a deep thing that we have to go to this, to become, we were saying yesterday about detachment, to become deeply, deeply, deeply attached to that world. Then we can automatically become detached from this world. If we just try to be like a tapasvi or something like that, and just become renounced from this. That's not the path. The path is to become attached to Krishna, and then automatically the detachment will kick in. Automatically. Why should you keep going back to a lower taste when a higher taste is being offered to us? And so it's only by Sri Guru, Vaishnavas and Sri Hari that this current can come. It can't come from our material mind. You can't, from something material, spiritual can't manifest. It's exactly the same example of the piece of wood. The piece of wood can never ignite itself by itself, can it? The piece of wood is material. It's got fire within it, but it can never come on fire until another piece of wood, which is already on fire, ignites it. So it's exactly the same principle. We can't access that transcendental world without being touched by the pure Guru, Sri Hari and the Vaishnavas, by this seva to them. If we have absolute faith in Guru seva, Vaishnava seva, then, as we're taught, then Krishna will supply the confidence that this is the path. It's that confidence that is needed. Shraddha, Shabde, Vishvasa, Koi, Sudrita, Nishchoy. Shraddha is the faith, is the core. And then this Vishvasa means confidence. Our confidence will be very strong if our faith is strong. If our faith in the spiritual reality is so strong, stronger than anything in this material world, any material, calculative, logical, rational explanation about things. It's not on that level. It's completely on the transcendental level. So it's only by Guru, Vaishnavas and Sri Hari that could manifest, obviously. Therefore, any amounts of Sukriti credits in billions of lifetimes are not going to achieve the transcendental. They'll give us the qualification perhaps to meet a transcendental personality. For example, now, if you're not a Prabhupada disciple and you worship Prabhupada very diligently and carefully, you can earn the Sukriti to come to a Mahabhagavat. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, if he's already left and you're not a disciple of him, can't give you direct bhakti. It's like the Ritvik group believe that just by worshipping Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, you can automatically receive pure bhakti. No, you cannot. You have to have the living personality and the current. It's exactly, again, the same example of the fire in the wood. How can you imagine that fire is going to come and ignite the wood? There actually has to be a fire to ignite the wood. If you're trying to imagine, yes, this person is coming with all spiritual transcendence, therefore I will get bhakti, but it's only in the imagination, it's not a reality, because it has to be gifted directly from guru to disciple. That's the procedure. It has to be that way. It can't be any other way. The devotees who are expert in relishing the loving moods of the Braja Gopis are the treasure house of Lovamoy Bhakti, devotion to Krishna that is full of intense longing. This is why this Damordarastakam is so potent, because it's taking us right into Raganuga Bhakti. We're reading about this innocent child being caught by his mother, by being bound to a grinding mortar, etc. And the Leela is so extraordinary. But woven into all of this are these really deep, essential, incredible Rasik truths. This divine, intense longing. Among them, among these personalities, some exemplify one's own desired mood and are affectionate towards oneself. Swajatiya Shnigda. Those personalities must be having some affection for us. Svajatiya Snigda Ashraya. These are the three principles for association. That's what, same mood. They want Braja Prem, the same group. They don't want Dwarka Prem. They don't want Gyan. They don't want Karma. They actually want Braja. They want service to Sri Radhika. That is Swajatiya. And then Shnigda means affectionate. They have to be affectionate to us. They have to be open. The whole process is about affection. It's about love and affection. My Gurudev quoted this so many times. love and affection. Actually, when people would come to see my Gurudev, he would ask us afterwards only one question: do they like me? Are they attracted to me? It's only this initial attraction, because many wouldn't, and they'd go away forever. And some would, and they would stay and they would get that gift. So an ashraya means senior, someone who is senior, and we can accept their words. If one gets their association, then he should realize that they are the most dear friends of his soul. With his life and soul, he should serve them and endeavor to purchase their mood. Ultimately, we are looking to Tishtem Braje Tanuragi Janugami. We're looking to take the moods of the Brijabasis. This is what this is saturated with, the moods of the Brijabasis. Mother Yashoda, as we get deeper into the Leela, we find the sweetness of their exchanges, especially in this chapter, which I hope that we're going to get through today, when the two trees come crashing down. The revelations, the moods of the Brijabasis towards Krishna. This is the moods that we want. We want those moods of the Brijabasis. But how can such moods be attained? When the person hankers for the same relationship, sambandha, that these great Rasik devotees have with their Swamini, Sri Radha, and with her companions, and when he hankers to have some deep possessiveness, mamata, for her, and the same intense inclination to serve her, seva vasana, then he can attain these moods. Only then can one truly serve such Rasik personalities, and then is one's life successful. There is no other way. There isn't another way. It's that connection in relationship with that Rasik personality and bhakti. It's like there's no other way for the fire in the wood to ignite except with the association of another fire, isn't it? It's such a simple, clear example. It's exactly the same. Without that person who's on fire, your internal fire will not manifest. It cannot. Just like a piece of wood, any piece of wood. This harmonium could sit for 1 billion trillion years. Doesn't matter what it does, it could never ignite. But as soon as a flame comes to it, then straight away, that internal flame will burst into fire. So this is the Siddhanta. So now, Nanda Baba came, so Krishna has pulled these two trees, have come crashing down. It's described, at once they began falling over and finally struck the ground, producing a deafening crash. These trees were 15,000 years old. What is the general lifespan of a tree? I know there's a tree in Goldrundui that must be about 1,000 years old. It must have seen all of Mahaprabhu's Leelas. What do you say? Some thousands years, yes. Today probably not so lengthy as previously. 500 or 600. Yes, but 15,000 years. That's how old the trees were. They were massive, and they crashed to the ground, not even touching Krishna.
15 million Earth years.
15
million Earth years.
million Earth years.
Million Earth years.
Wow, not even 15,000, 15 million. 15 million. Inconceivable how huge those trees must have been. And just by the touch of that mortar, which became transcendental by being bound to Krishna's waist, was able just to immediately pull them to the ground. Nanda Baba came running after he heard the deafening crash made when the massive Arjuna trees fell. He saw Kanaya still tied up, standing between the fallen trees. Nanda Baba was shaken to see Krishna standing so close to the fallen trees and thought, today Narayan has given us so much protection. What would have happened if Kanaya had been underneath these trees when they fell? This was such a devastating shock to Nanda Baba. Mother Yashoda also came running. When she saw the horrible scene, she entered into shock. Aghast, she thought, alas, what has happened? Nanda Baba asked the children, how did this happen? In their broken language, the children explained, Baba, as soon as Kanaya pulled the grinding mortar against the two trees, they fell over and two very beautiful people came out. They looked like demigods. They folded their hands and offered prayers to Kanaya. Then they circumambulated him and went north. But Nanda Baba was not convinced. He took Krishna on his lap and he just didn't believe the kids that this had actually happened like this. On his lap, Krishna had been keeping silent till now. But as soon as he sat on his father's lap, he burst into tears and began to wail. Give me affection, give me affection. Began to wail. When Nanda Baba and the cowherd boy saw Krishna crying, tears also started streaming from their own eyes. Nanda Baba pacified his darling son and untied the knot. The knot that bound Krishna was factually made of Vatsalya Ras, not rope. Consequently, only his associates in Vatsalya Ras or Madhurya Ras, conjugal love, which is higher than Vatsalya Ras, this could be written as Shringara Ras also, in other words the gopis, had the power to untie such a knot. Actually, we should understand that where is Mother Yashoda manifesting from? She's manifesting from Sri Radhika. Sri Radhika is Swarup Shakti. All in existence are manifesting from Sri Radhika. So Sri Radhika's Vatsalya Prem manifests as Mother Yashoda. This is the embodiment of Sri Radha's Vatsalya Prem. My Gurudev says like this. Consequently, only his associates in Vatsalya Ras or Madhurya Ras, conjugal love, had the power to untie such a knot. Krishna's friends in Sakya Ras and his servants in Dasya Ras, or those situated in a passive or neutral relationship with him in Shanta Ras, could not have untied the knot tied by Mother Yashoda. Even within Vatsalya Ras, there is a gradation. The love of Mother Yashoda, who actually bound Krishna, is superior to the love of Nanda Baba, who released him. So Nanda Baba could not have bound Krishna, but Mother Yashoda's love is superior ultimately to Nanda Baba's Vatsalya Ras, so she was able to bind him, but Nanda Baba was able to release him with this Vatsalya mood. These are the moods of Brijavasis. This is what we're hearing. When Mother Yashoda saw what had happened to her Kanaya, she could not move. She simply stood there like a statue. She could not even cry. Nanda Baba made Kanaya a little peaceful and then gave him a sweet laddu from his cloth bag. Kanaya, he asked, tell me who tied you up? Mother, Kanaya replied. Becoming silent, Nanda Baba then resolved to punish Mother Yashoda with the greatest punishment a loved one can give. For the entire remainder of the day, Nanda Baba did not speak a single word to her. In a grave mood, he took Krishna and Balaram in his arms and went to bathe in Brahmand Ghat. After everyone had bathed, he returned with them to the Goshala, the grand shelter for the cows. Meanwhile, Mother Yashoda had become as dry and lifeless as a piece of dry wood. Mother Yashoda is just in another world of shock. In the Goshala, Nanda Baba filled Krishna and Balaram's bellies by giving them rock candy and squirting milk into their mouths directly from the cow's udders. This is directly from the cow's udders squirted. You don't need to boil it or anything like that. It's completely pure. It's only when it's been out for about 50 or 60 seconds that it becomes contaminated and needs to be boiled before you drink it. But if you drink the milk directly from the udder, it's as pure as liquid gold, it's described. It's the most pure. Squirting directly into the cow's udders. Came home, Mother Rohini served them the food she had prepared. Nanda Baba silently fed the children. After they'd finished, he took some himself. Then they returned to the Goshala. In the evening, Upananda's wife came to Nanda Baba along with Mother Rohini and the other older ladies of Braj. Mother Rohini told Balaram, "Go now and bring Krishna." That day, however, Krishna had given Balaram such a push that he fell quite far backward. Finally, Upananda's wife and Mother Rohini spoke to Kanaya. "Look, Kanaya," they said, "your mother is crying so much. Go to her." "No, I will not go," he answered. "Then come to me," Rohini said. But Kanaya answered strongly, "No, I won't go near you. When mother was tying me up, I called to you so loudly, but you did not come. I won't even go near you." "With whom will you eat?" asked Mother Rohini. "With father," he answered. "With whom will you play?" she asked. "With Daubai, my big brother Balaram." "With whom will you sleep?" "With father." Rohini said, "Until now, you have always slept next to your mother, but today you will sleep with your father? Your mother is crying for you." This is a most loving exchange. Then Nanda Baba said, "Should I beat your mother?" Upon hearing these words, Kanaya stopped his father's raised hand in answer. Then Rohini said, "And if mother suddenly dies, then?" As soon as Krishna heard this, he burst into loud sobs and ran into Mother Rohini's lap. She brought him to Mother Yashoda, and when she placed him on Mother Yashoda's lap, Yashoda began to weep loudly. Shri Krishna also cried. Nanda Baba's heart melted, and he began to cry. Rohini and all the other residents of Braj who were gathered also began to cry. Weeping filled the entire atmosphere. Finally, the respected elders of Braj pacified everyone. That night, when it was time for dinner, Nanda Baba told Kanaya, "Go and bring your mother to me." Shri Krishna immediately went and caught hold of his mother's veil, and although she hesitated to go, Krishna brought her to Nanda Baba. She served a dinner to everyone, and then they all took their meal with great joy. Thereafter, Mother Yashoda took Krishna up in her arms and went up to her bedroom. So this is the end of the second verse. So this Gokula, this drowning the inhabitants in this Radha-kunda, in these leelas of bliss, is what's opened out at the very end of this chapter. The whole of Braj is weeping loudly. This is Krishna's pastimes. He's arranging that their hearts will be churned in the moods of love, so their love will fully manifest towards Krishna, so the world can appreciate this. So this final part of this second chapter is beautiful. And then again, I'm going to repeat this other verse that was in the Adilila 4:17. This Aishwarya Janate Shabha Jagat Mishrita. Aishwarya Stitala Prem Nahi Mora Prita. All the universe is filled with knowledge of my majesty, but love weakened by that sense of majesty does not control me. So think of this pastime we've just described, how this pastime is, this love is controlling Krishna, whereas all the reverential prayers and so on, they don't control Krishna in the same way. Mother Yashoda's weeping, Nanda Baba's weeping, the Sakhas are weeping, Rohini Ma's weeping, Upananda's weeping. Everyone is weeping, they're wailing all together in actually ecstatic bliss of affection and attraction to Krishna. So this is what Krishna wants to taste and live in this world, not the reverential hymns of the Vedas, etc. They are searching after Krishna also. And it goes on in the next verse, verse 18. If one regards me as the Supreme Lord and himself as a subordinate, I do not become subservient to him, nor does it control me. So this is the mood in that Krishna relates to his bhaktas. And this is the mood that Sachinandan Gaurahari gives in his teachings. all the teachings of Rupa Goswami are indicating this tremendous sweetness and speciality of Vrindavan. So it's this sweetness that the devotee craves to hear and meditate on. And while we're chanting, think about the speciality of the devotees, of the Brijbasis' relationships with Krishna directly. Because this is Braja Prem, this is Braja Ras. And this is what we want to hold most prominently in our hearts. We want to pull it from the mind into the heart. It's no good if it just sits in the mind, chewing over all the various logical, rational explanations of it, which can be very inspiring, but we want to pull that into the heart region, because it's only in the heart region where we can touch that eternal chord. It's from there, that eternal connection, that special sweetness is in that region, not in the head. That's the Sangvit Shakti. When it mixes with the Hladini Shakti, that Hladini Shakti is in the heart. So we have to pull it into that region, out of the Gyan. But the Gyan will purify the mind, for sure. But we have to constantly check, am I on heart track or am I on head track? We have to analyze this. Okay, we'll stop there today because there's no light. And I don't know how tomorrow's going to be with Bahulastami itself. Today they're using up all the electricity to illuminate. Tomorrow it'll be even more, because tomorrow is the celebration of the appearance at midnight of Radha-kunda. And then apparently the next day they also glorify. So they've actually barricaded all around the kunds so that no one will go in and commit suicide or something like that. So they do it every year. And the same at Kusum Sarovar also. That'll also be barricaded up. There's millions and millions and millions of people who come to observe this festival tomorrow of the appearance of Sri Radha-kunda. So we'll talk about that tomorrow and carry on with our Damordarastakam. Sri Damordarastakam ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari.